Hello friends and welcome back to Digitalk. So in this session I am going to cover one of the complex topics that is specifically related with the Docker and the WebLogic clustering. Okay, so clustering involves specifically when we talk about horizontal clustering, okay, where we have the multiple nodes, okay, not a single machine, where we have WebLogic managed servers cluster which is span across the multiple machines, okay, and the complexity is increased if we talk about the implementation of such horizontal cluster in the Docker, okay, because there are a lot of questions like how the communication will be happen between the cluster, specifically when your managed servers are running inside the containers. Okay, so we have a different nodes where we have the Docker installed, and then your managed server admin servers are running inside the container, and when they are on a different nodes, so how the communication will happen between them, are they will be in the sync, or if how to actually implement the WebLogic clustering in the Docker. Okay, and other questions based on some multiple other scenarios. Okay, so the first one, as I said, there would be a questions on the cross node cluster communications, then about the domain location, right? Because we have a domain, and then if we are saying that we have a multiple containers which contain the managed servers or admin servers, and then do we have the domain in each and every inside the containers, or it will be outside the containers? So how it is going to work? Okay, and then the very important is WebLogic domain is a stateful in the sense we have a persistent store, and specifically if you are using the JMS services, okay, where you have the JMS messages, which is a singleton services, and each and every managed server has own JMS store. Okay, whether it is a file based or whether it is a your database based, so every managed server has own file stores. Okay, so how we manage that one, that is called a stateful, right? So because we know that in a DevOps, specifically when we talk about Docker or Kubernetes, we can scale up or scale down the application. So if we are scaling up the servers, or we are scaling down the server, so what will happen to all those messages? Those are there in the particular JMS store. So a lot of things are there, a lot of confusions are there. So every concept I am going to clear in this particular session, and along with that I am going to post few more sessions on this very soon. Okay, and along with that so I'm going to post a complete series or on this Docker WebLogic, and then Docker WebLogic and Kubernetes. Okay, so there would be some of the series, there would be some courses that I will launch in the Udemy, okay, very soon, in just couple of weeks of a time, okay, where I am going to explain everything in detail with the action plans. Okay, for example, this is the action plan which is to implement two node cluster, okay, in the Docker. So here I am explaining you all the things that we have, how to implement it, how what are the different approach that we use for the implementation on our cluster in the Docker for the WebLogic. Okay, so these are three challenges that I have explained, or maybe you can say there are a lot of questions in I have seen in the question mind of a lot of engineers when they talk about how the Docker is going to implement in how the WebLogic is going to implement in Docker, and specifically in terms of the multi-node clustering. Okay, so I will tell you how I implemented that one. Okay, two node cluster, and I will show you on my machines as well. Okay, so I have a two node cluster in AWS machine, AC2 machine. So I will show you that as well. With the I will run the multiple commands, okay, so that we will do the verification of the complete cluster. So you will understand the what are the different commands that we use for the like the validation of this kind of a cluster. Okay, and then how actually we implement that one. Okay, so now this is the architecture in my case. So I have a two node 1 and node 2 in my AWS account. Okay, so this will be my first node where I will run one admin server container and then manage server one container, and node 2 will have the manage server 2 container, and then these two servers ms1 and ms2 manage servers will be part of the WebLogic cluster. Okay, so now the very first thing we have to install the Docker, right? Because we are talking about the containerized solution Docker, so you need to install the Docker in both of the nodes. Okay, both nodes. Now the important is second thing, Docker Swarm. Okay, so Docker Swarm is an utility that is again a part of your Docker only. Okay, that we use for cross node communications. Okay, there are a lot of benefits of Docker Swarm. Okay, it's not about cross nodes. I'm talking about the clustering. So I'm talking about only that benefit. Okay, so whenever like you wanted to have a cluster, okay, two node cluster or maybe multiple node, 2 4 5 6 number of nodes, that means you have a different nodes, and you will have a horizontal cluster where the managed server will run on the different containers on the different nodes. So every node need to communicate with each other, right, within a cluster. So this is the node 1, this is node 2, right? This is managed server 1, this is managed server 2, both going to part of a same cluster. So there would be a inter cluster communication between this node 1 and node 2, right? So for that we use the Docker Swarm, and specifically with the Docker Swarm we use the overlay network. Okay, so we have a different kind of a networks in the Docker, and bridge is the default network which is get installed, but it work on the single node. But if you are going for a multi-machine clustering like this one where you have multiple nodes, so we have to create the overlay network. So this overlay network help us for the multi-node communications. Okay, and then we use the Docker SAM. So Docker SAM is an utility, as I said, from the Docker itself. Okay, which with the help of Docker SAM we can get the multiple benefits when we implement this kind of architecture in the WebLogic, which is a clustering. Okay, again, then we are going to create a shared storage, shared file system between the nodes. Okay, so here what we are doing, the domain will be reside in the local file system. Okay, and that domain will be mapped inside the container. So this is what I was talking about, domain location. So we will have a shared location, or you can say it is an NFS or the shared path file system between both nodes. So this is node 1 and this is node 2. Okay, so I have created an EFS, elastic file system in the AWS. Okay, so, and then I have created a shared mount point with this name /mnt EFS domain. So this is going to be our domain in the local file system, which is shared between both node. Okay, and this domain is going to map inside the container. So that means domain will be reside in the local file system, just like we have in the traditional setups. Okay, so this is the main architecture or the component that we have to use when we are going for domain WebLogic clustering in the Docker. Okay, then what we are going to do, we are going to create a project. Okay, and because we are going to create our own domain. Okay, so that means we have to create our own image, right? So in the image we need to create our own script, like the domain script. Okay, what we need inside the domain, because every domain has own different kind of resources, like each and every customer may have their own resources. They have a multiple number of managed server, they will have one admin server, then different port, and then we have a multiple resources like the data sources, JMS, some other resources, like, so that means we have to customize our domain, just like traditional. When we install in a traditional environment, we install and then we start creating the resources. So similarly here, when you are going to create the domain, okay, so the difference with the traditional is, in traditional we install, then we access the admin console, and then we do the configurations. But here, because this is going to be completely automated, you cannot do the configurations like that. Okay, so there are some differences in terms of the DevOps and then Docker. So what we do, we will create our own image, and this image will contain all the scripts to create the domain, so that we can spin up our different managed servers, okay, in any machine within a couple of minutes. Okay, we don't need to create domain and copy paste the domain, like pack and pack the domain anywhere. Okay, you will have a single image which contain the WebLogic installations binaries, and same image will contain all the scripts. We can say complete project. So here we are going to use the WebLogic deploy tooling. So WDT WebLogic deploy tooling, which I have explained in one of the previous session as well. So this is an open source utility from the Oracle, and this is the preferable way to create the domain, specifically in WebLogic and other middleware technologies, fusion middleware technologies, which are going to implement in DevOps like Docker and Kubernetes. Okay. So this WDT tool I have explained in detail in the previous session, and you can just go to our channel and you will see the session there. So this we are going to download. You need to download this tool because this is going to be part of your image. Okay, and then we have to create a model file. So this model file is a WDT model file which contain our domain resources. That means whatever the resources that you want to create in the domain, admin server, managed server, different ports, cluster, data sources, etc., you need to define in the model file, and this model file is based on the this WDT tool specifications. Okay, and then we are going to create a script for creating the domain based on this particular model file. Then we have a script to start the admin server, and then we have a script to start the managed servers. So this is a generic script. So when we will start the managed server, so we will specify the name of managed servers. So these are the different you can say the scripts or the files that you need to create when you are going to implement the your own custom domain inside the image. Okay, so after that, once it is done, we have to initialize the SWAM. So as I said, SWAM is a Docker utility, okay, which we use for the multiple purpose, okay, and one of the purpose here is that because we are going for a horizontal clustering between two nodes, okay, so we need to provide an overlay network which will provide the inter-node communication, okay, and then we need to initialize the SWAM so that it can join the both the nodes, okay, using the overlay networks for this inter-node communications. Okay, so on node 1, which is your primary node, you need to initiate the SWAM. Okay, and like here we have, this is the node 1, and once SWAM is initialized, it will give you the join command. Okay, and this join command you need to run on each and every other nodes. So here we have two nodes, right? So this node 1 where we have initialized, During installation, you will get the output. You can copy paste the output. You will get all this command in the output, and you need to run this output or this command in all the nodes. So we have here only second node 2. So we will run this in node 2. If you have a multiple nodes, you can run this particular command on each and every node. So this will initialize your Docker Swarm. Okay, and before that we have to make sure we have created the overlay network. Okay, with this single command we in a docker create network to create a overlay network. Okay, so now once this is done, this complete setup is done. Okay, which is completely explained in this particular program action plan step by step. Okay, which I will post very soon in the series and in the Udemy course. Okay, so now once this is done, so we are going to start the services, the admin server and manage server as a service. Okay, so here you can see these are the command which I have used to start my admin server and manage servers. This is the command to start the admin server. This is the command to start manage server 1, and this is to start manage server 2. Okay, so here, as I said, we are going to use a Docker Swarm, right? So suppose you are not going to use a Docker Swarm. So like traditionally way you create a container directly using the Docker run command. So we know that whenever we create a containers, we run the simple Docker run command, right? So when do we run the Docker run command, it creates the container, right? So now after that Docker doesn't restart it if it is failed. This is one of the example. Now suppose that you run a container with the help of Docker run command and a container is running. If it is crashed due to any reasons, Docker will not aware about that one. Docker will not take any action on that, right? But if it is a Swarm, okay, so with the help of Swarm we start the servers like a service. Here you can say Docker service and then create Docker service and create. So that means your servers will be started as a doc service, okay, not a generic container. So after that, Swarm will give you a lot of benefits. Okay, the one of the benefit, it will automatically check the process of the each and every container, like the process for your admin server, the container for your managed server, the container for managed server 2, and if any of the server or a container crashed, it will automatically restart that. It will automatically spin up, okay, a new container instead of that. So this is one of the benefit, and similarly there are a lot of benefit in the Swarm, okay, that I will cover in some other session, but are the benefit of Swarms. Okay, so this is a netted action plan that I have used for implementation. Okay, so now I have explained you like the important terms or the challenges, and then the architecture, how I have implemented. Okay, what is the way I have created a project structure, and then Docker Swarm, why we use the Docker Swarm, how to initialize that one, and then how we are going to start the admin and manage servers. So if you see the syntax here is simple Docker service and then create. This is the name of your container. This is the admin container, and we are going to assign one label to this container. So network, as I said, we have to use the overlay network. So I have created a overlay network with the name of WLS-overlay for internode communication. Then we are going to publish the port. Okay, this is my local port, and this is the port of your admin server inside the container. And then we are going to mount the we are going to mount the local domain, okay, with the domain inside the container. So inside the container you will see the domain in this location, okay, and it is actually mapped to this local domain, local location, local file system, which is we have created as a shared file system, which I have explained here, right? So by this way we are going to start the admin server. Similarly we are going to start our manage server, and then we are going to run few commands, okay, to validate all the services that we have created, like the check for the Docker Swarm information, Docker Swarm cluster. So check for the overlay network that we have created. And now, because as I said, we have started this Docker containers for the servers as a service. So we can validate the different services with the help of different commands. We can look for the containers. We can look for the admin server or manage server logs with the help of Docker service log command. You can, if you want to ping, okay, you want to check whether the node 1 is container is able to ping the node 2 container, or in the reverse way. So we can have a ping command that we can run. Okay, so this is a way how we implement this architecture, okay, in the Docker. You can say that 2 node horizontal cluster. Okay, so now let me show you, log into my EC2 machines, and let me show you how it is implemented, and then I will show you all the commands, okay, by running all the commands, how the output looks like. So let me first show you my instances, okay. So here in my AWS account, you can see I have two EC2 instances, okay, for the Docker. So this is my node 1 and this is my node 2. Okay, so these two nodes where I have configured the WebLogic horizontal clustering. Okay, so now if I go on a node 1, so this is my node 1 primary node where admin server container is running. So if I run the docker ps command, okay, so docker ps command give you the status of all the running containers. Okay, so here you can see I have two containers are running. This is for the admin server and this is for the managed server 1. So these two containers are running here, and similarly if I go to my node 2 here, okay, and if I give docker ps here, you can say my one of the second managed server is running here, and all these I have started with the help of these command, but I have explained service create, okay, and then for admin server and managed servers, right? So now to access my admin console, so I, because my admin server is running on my primary node, so I will take the public IP of my primary node. So this is my public IP, okay, and then 7001 and then slash console, okay. So you can see that I can able to access the console. So let me log in. Okay, so here I have a two node cluster, okay, so that I will show you now. So if I go to my environments and servers, okay, so here you can see this is the my managed server 1, this is my managed server 2, and both are part of a cluster, right? So I have a cluster that I have defined, cluster 1, and these two managed servers are part of my cluster. So now here if I click on the monitoring tab, okay, so you can see here I have two servers which is part of this cluster. Right. So this is from the admin console. Now you want to validate from the command line. Okay. So as I said, we have a multiple command. With the help of that, we can do the validations. Okay. So the very first thing, as I said, because I'm running the SWAM cluster. Okay. We have used the SWAM. So you want to check the node of the SWAM. So we can just run the docker node ls command. Okay. So let me clear it and then show you. Okay, so docker node ls. So now we have a two node which is participating in this particular SWAM cluster. So this is my node 1 and this is my node 1, this is my node 2. So node 1, which is the primary node from where I have run the join command, so it is declared as a leader. The other one, the status is blank. Okay, so we have two node as of now which is participating in the docker SWAM. So which we can check with the docker node ls. Okay, now you want to check few more information about the docker status of the SWAM. Okay, so you can run the docker and info command. So docker info is a generic command that we use for multiple purpose to check information about the docker, okay, and the resources that we have implemented. Okay, so specifically we are checking the SWAM here. So you can see this is the SWAM. The status of SWAM is active. Okay, and then we have one manager, one leader here, and then two nodes are participating in this particular SWAM cluster. Right. Now similarly, as I said, I have created my overlay network. So you want to check the network. So this is a very generic command of docker network ls, which list out all the networks. Okay, we have a different kind of a network for different purpose in Docker. So here this is a network that I have created, which is the overlay network. Okay, scope is for SWAM. Okay, because for inter-node communications, we have two different nodes. So to provide the communication or networking between two different nodes, we have to use the overlay network. So which you can check with the help of docker network ls command. Okay, so default network the bridge in the docker. Okay, so now we have few more commands. So apart from this, okay, we can, if you want to inspect the particular network, okay, so for example here we have created this particular overlay network with the name of wls-overlay. You want to inspect that particular network, for you want to view certain information about that particular network, so you can just run this command, okay, which is docker network inspect and your overlay name. Then it will give you the information about that particular, okay, like what is the labels of the nodes, okay, that is belong to this particular overlay network. Okay, so here you can see this is the name, this is the IP address, then the container details. Okay, so it will give you some more details about the particular network that we have created. Okay, so now again the next one is the important one, is docker services ls. Okay, so here what we are going to list, we are going to list the services. Okay, so here we have three services, one for admin server and two for managed servers. Okay, so now if I run the docker ps command, okay, so docker ps is going to give me only two containers here. However, when I run for the docker service, it will give me the three service name. The reason is that this is specifically the containers. So in this primary machine, we have one container for the admin server and one container for the managed server. So docker ps is showing you the container, right? But because we have started these containers as a service, okay, so if you remember, let me go back to plan. So here this is the command that I have explained to you, right, to start particular container, or you can say we have started using the docker service. right? So this is the first admin server. Okay, and then similarly we have, this is for the managed server, and this is for the second managed server, this is for the first managed server. So we have started as a service. So that's why when I'm running this docker service command, ls command, from the primary node, it is listing me all three services. Okay, but when I run the docker ps command, it will going to list me the particular containers only. Okay, so similarly if I go to node 1 and if I run the docker ps command here, okay, it is going to show me only the one container which is for the second managed server which is running on this particular node, right? So this is the other important command, docker services and ls. And then if you want to inspect particular container, for example, or you can say you want to inspect particular service, so here we have created three services, right? One for admin server, this is the name for service, and two for managed servers, ms1 and ms2. You want to inspect, okay, maybe you have some problem with any of the service and you want to inspect particular service. Okay, so we have the command docker service inspect. Okay, this is just like we were inspecting the network. Similarly we have the command to inspect the particular service, right? Because we can have a problem with the network, we can have a problem with the services. So you can run this command, and this is going to give you some more information about this particular service. So this service is for admin server. Okay, so you can see here what all are the images. This is the image, okay, that is used by this particular service, and this is the mount point in the local file system where we have the domain. Okay, and this is the domain inside the container, right? This is the mapping, what we have seen in the command where we have started the containers, right, as a service. So you can say we have mounted, this is the local file system for domain, and this is the destination inside the container, right? Similarly if you scroll down, then it will give you some more information about this particular, like this is the target port, this is the publish port for admin server. Okay, so by this way you can inspect the particular service as well. Okay, so now similarly, just we have given the name for the admin server service, you can inspect your managed servers as well. You can just change the name of service for the managed server, right? And after that, if you want to inspect a particular container, okay, so what we have seen here, we have inspected a particular service. Similarly if you want to inspect a container, so you just need to give the docker inspect and then container id. Okay, and container id you can get with the help of docker ps command. So ps will give you the container id, right? So you can take this particular container id and you can give with the docker inspect command. Let me show you this as well. Okay, and suppose that I want to inspect my admin server container. So I am going to inspect my admin server container, and this is again going to give you some more information about this particular container. So now you can say this is the my admin server container. Okay, you can say status is running. Okay, it started at, okay, and then which image it belongs, that the information about the image, host path where the related container files are there, default files are there. And similarly if you scroll down, then you will see some more information about the container, your mapping of the domains. Okay, and similarly scroll down, then you will see the environmental path, what is the path that has been set for this particular container inside this admin container, what is the script that has been used, what is the name of the image that is used. So every detail you will get with the help of docker inspect command. Okay, so similarly if you want to check the logs, okay, now you want to check the admin server logs, okay, because you may have some problem and you want to check the logs. So we have multiple ways. You can directly go to the local file system, right, because our domain is in the local file system as well, right? So what is the location? Cd mnt efs, okay, and then domain. So here I have created my domain in the local system, right? So as of now it is owned by different user, so I will just log in with the different that user. Let me quickly log in. Okay, so now if I go inside my local domain, which is mnt efs, and then domain, and then base domain, right? So my local file system. So that means I can easily explore it my local file system as well. I can go to my servers and admin servers. It's just like we navigate in the traditional system, because now we have the domain in the local file system, and this is mapped inside the container, right? So this domain is in local file system. Let me close. Okay, so you can run the docker service log. So this is going to give you the logs about the particular service. So with the help of this service, what we have done, we have started the admin server, right? So you can see here the complete log when your server was started. Okay, the same traditional log that we see in the standard log files, you can see here as well, right? and you can see here server is in running mode. So this is traditional log that you can see with the help of Docker service and logs command with this command. Okay, now anytime you want to go inside a particular container, okay, and you wanted to view some configuration files or anything inside the container, okay, so for that we have the Docker exec command. So for that you need the particular Docker ID, container ID. So you can run the Docker ps command. This is going to give you the container ID. Okay, now suppose you want to go inside the admin container. Okay, so we have the command Docker exec -it and then the container ID, and then we have to give the shell, in which shell you want to start the container. So I'm giving bash. Okay, so now you can see I am entered inside the container which is owned by the Oracle. Okay, so because I have created an Oracle user inside the container for installation. So now if I see list here, you can see this is by default I am inside the user01 Oracle, which is my Oracle home. Now if you want to check the domain, then you can go to user01 and then domains. And this is the same domain that I have mapped while I started the services. If you see here, this is my local domain which I mapped inside the container in the user01 domain. So now I am inside this user01 domain. Okay, so I can able to see my domain here. Right, now you go to base domain, and here similarly to the files or the log files, whatever you want, you can view inside the container as well. Okay, but because this is a container, okay, which is based on the image, and image contain a lightweight operating system. Okay, so you will not have all the commands running here because this is a lightweight operating system inside the image. So this you can't able to run every command here. Okay, for example, let me try to run the more command. Okay, to check the logs. Okay, you can see more not found because more command is not there in this lightweight image. If I am going to run the cat command, it is going to run. Okay, because cat command is there in this particular lightweight image which is part of the WebLogic image. Okay, so to come out from the particular container, you can just run the exit command. So you will come out from the container. So now I am in my local file system in my OS. Right, so these are the certain command that you can run for the troubleshooting, specifically when you are in the cluster. Okay, WebLogic cluster in the Docker.